Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us in this discussion about the 2010 Procedure Manual for KDNC. In this recording, we are going to talk about funds and how they're going to be handled within the chapter. Handling of chapter funds. At the beginning of each financial year, the chapter's board of directors must prepare or cause to be prepared a budget of estimated income and estimated expenditures for the year, which having been agreed upon by the board, shall stand as the limit of expenditures for the respective purposes unless otherwise ordered by the action of the board. All bills shall be paid by the treasurer or other authorized officer only after approval by two other officers or directors. A qualified accountant or other qualified person must make an independent review of all chapter's financial transactions each year. Chapter meetings are not required to include a meal, thereby reducing the cost of the individual member. Chapters should review their practices of filing or establishing informal chapter assessment in order to minimize chapter member expenses. Chapters with past due financial obligations to KDNC. All chapters are notified of the board's policy on non-payment of per capita dues and other financial obligations to KDNC in the letter transmitting each semi-annual report. The termination notification is sent to the chapter by registered mail, and copies of notification are sent to the governors and directors in the area. KDNC has adopted the following procedures for collecting past due financial obligations from the chapters. 1. Reminder notices to chapters with unpaid financial obligation in excess of $250 will be sent 90 days or 3 months from the due date. 2. Termination of chapters with unpaid financial obligation in excess of $250 will occur 180 days or 6 months from the due date. 3. Any terminated chapter that has fully paid its financial obligations, which will include $10 member reinstatement fee for a minimum of 10 members with 270 days, that is 9 months from the due date, will be reinstated. 4. Unpaid financial obligations of $50 or less will be written off after 270 days from the due date. 5. Letters requesting payment will be sent to chapters with balances of 250 or less, but termination will not be mentioned. 6. A record of chapters with consistent patterns of non-payment under $50 will be maintained. After 2 cycles of non-payment, the General Secretary will have discretionary authority to suspend KDNC and entrepreneurial services to the chapter. 7. Records of all write-offs of chapter financial obligations will be maintained for review by the board at any time. Reinstatement of chapters terminated due to non-payment of financial obligations. A terminated chapter may only seek to be reinstated up to 1 year, that is 365 days after its termination. When a chapter seeks reinstatement within 90 days of termination, it must pay the full amount of its outstanding financial obligations at the time of termination. All semi-annual dues payments that have continued to accrue during the period between termination and reinstatement, and a $10 per member reinstatement fee. Again, a terminated chapter may only seek to be reinstated up to 1 year after its termination. That is, when a chapter seeks reinstatement within 90 days of termination, it must pay the full amount of its outstanding financial obligation at the time of termination. It must pay all semi-annual dues payments that have continued to accrue during the period between termination and reinstatement, and it must pay a $10 per member reinstatement fee. When chapter seeks reinstatement more than 90 days but less than 365 days after termination, it must fulfill all the requirements of a chapter seeking to be reinstated within 90 days of termination, and in addition, complete an application for reinstatement and pay a $15 per member application fee. A chapter seeking reinstatement may only revise its membership list within 1 year, that is 365 days of semi-annual period due date. If only partial payment is made on the 365th day following termination, the amount will be applied to terminated chapter delinquent financial obligation. Terminated chapters that do not fulfill their entire financial responsibility, that is, full amount of the outstanding financial obligation at the time of termination, or semi-annual due payments that have continued to accrue during the period between termination and reinstatement, the application fee and the reinstatement fee within 365 days of termination lose their original charter and are not eligible for reinstatement. Status of chapters with membership suspended. The KDNC board may suspend the membership of any chapter that fails to pay its dues or other financial obligations to KDNC or its approved contributions to the Wilaya Fund. As long as the chapter remains suspended, it has none of the rights provided to chapters under the KDNC bylaws, but does retain the rights granted to the chapters under the KDNC Constitution. Again, that's a very important distinction. As long as the chapters remain suspended, it has none of the rights provided to the chapters under the KDNC bylaws, but does retain the rights granted to chapters under the KDNC Constitution. The General Secretary is authorized to suspend KDNC entrepreneurial activities or services and businesses to a chapter once the Wilaya Governor certifies that the chapter is more than 6 months in arrears of Wilaya per capita dues. The following KDNC entrepreneurial activities are suspended until the Governor verifies to the General Secretary that the chapter has remitted its Wilaya per capita levy. 1. Inclusion on KDNC mailing lists. 2. Receipt of publications and periodicals. 3. Secretarial services, including services of KDNC such as acceptance of new program applications or processing of current ones, and the recognition of chapters as sponsors or hosts of active KDNC program awards. 4. Governor services, monthly letter, inclusion on Wilaya mailing lists, and an official visit. Wilaya governors must continue to provide minimum mailings to suspended chapters so that the chapters are allowed to do the following. 1. Submit suggestions to the monitoring committee for governor. 2. Vote in any authorized ballot by mail. 3. Vote at the Wilaya conference and Wilaya assembly. 4. Submit a proposed enactment or resolution of the Council of Legislation. 5. Concur with any proposed legislation submitted to the Council on Legislation. 6. Concur with a challenge to the nomination of a candidate for Wilaya Governor. 7. Take any other action allowed by the KDNC constitutional documents. Thank you very much for listening to that important segment.